Come unwrap some holiday magic this season in Denver, where the lights are brighter and the shopping is grander. The shows are more spectacular, the trees taller, the festivities merrier. So come for your holiday traditions or make some new ones with your friends and family in the Mile High City, where the season feels a whole lot more wonderful. Discover great hotels and more things to do at milehighholidays.com.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Hey, it's your financial maven, Samantha Besnoff, CPA, and after almost 25 years in the accounting world, I've decided to share my insights and passion about money. Knowing your money and hopefully feeling less stress about your money is what I call being financially empowered. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Your Financial Maven. I'm so excited to have you guys here, and in my third week of chatting with friends, I'm excited to share my conversation with my really good friend, Lisa Hostler. Lisa's also been in the financial world for a very long time, so we're not just chatting as girlfriends, we instill some of our expertise and insight, and her depth and her knowledge is really awesome with the things she's had to share. And we shine light on some topics that we have yet to approach and talk about. And I think it's important that we do. I've met Lisa. I've known her almost 13 years now. We met when we were in Junior League of Lancaster. And we also are connected through our very dear, sweet friend, Dawn, who we miss every day. So we just wanted to chat about money and understanding of money. And I hope that you enjoy this episode.
All right. So I'm so excited you're here. This is great. It's been you moved 2 years ago?
Yeah.
You moved?
June 1st. Yeah. Next week.
Oh my
It'll
God.
be 2 years.
So I think we've known each other 12 years now?
Yeah, it has been.
It's been a long time and a lot has changed.
Oh, yeah. No kidding.
All right. So the first thing I wanted to know is, as you were growing up, you lived in the Midwest. How did you really learn about money? I know for me, I learned by observing and watching. So what are the things that you learned growing up from a financial standpoint or about money?
So I grew up in Michigan, and the biggest thing that I remember learning regarding money is we have allowance, and my parents were very strict about your allowance is what pays for anything that we're not providing. And you had to learn to save. If you wanted something that was more than a week's allowance, you had to save. And they didn't supplement our allowance. If you wanted it, you'd figure it out. Now, there were some odd jobs that we could do to earn extra money. My uncle lived a couple blocks away, and he would pay us 25 cents to weed a row of his garden.
Oh my God, 25 cents. I mean, we're children of the 70s and 80s. I think people need to realize that's a lot of money. So yeah, in perspective.
I know. And if you weeded 4 rows, he had a big garden. That was $1. You got paper money.
Right. And you could get a lot for $1.
Yes. And then we would walk into town. I lived in a very small town, and we'd walk into town to the Ben Franklin.
I would say 5 and dime, 5 and 10. That's what we used to call it. Yep.
Oh my gosh. For $0.25, you could get a giant candy bar.
I think they're $3 now? Something like that.
Yeah, so for perspective.
Oh my God. Yeah, quarter could go a long way when we were growing up.
Yes. And then as I got older, of course, babysitting. And that was my key earning power when I was a teenager. And then, when you turn 16, then you can go work for some restaurant. So I was a salad bar girl, and minimum wage was $2.13 an hour.
It's not much higher now, though, in certain places. In some states it is, but at that time, that was a lot for a 16-year-old.
It was. And that's what I had to use to pay for my gas in my car. My parents did not pay for that. So we learned hard work and saving for what you wanted.
So as you got older, you were a single mother for a while. How did that all change your perspective as a woman and a mother trying to raise your daughter and support yourself, like, did you find that your lessons of when you were growing up not only helped you, but did some of it shift? Like, how did that perspective of dealing with money change for you?
I think the way I grew up really laid the groundwork for making me successful being a single mother, because it taught me that, where there's a will, there's a way. And you set out your goals, in this case, what I wanted for my daughter, and I made it happen. So I worked a lot, a lot of creative solutions to ensure she had what she needed and a lot of what she wanted.
And also, I'm assuming for yourself too, because you still had to do things as well and hopefully have some self-care in there as well.
Yeah. I was going to grad school and working full time and solo parent, and you get creative with how you can manage things and you rely on your community.
And you had a good foundation of understanding and budgeting to a degree, or planning your money out. And did you find that when you met Joe, you got married to Joe, did that change at all? Or did both you and Joe have similar viewpoints about money?
Because we both came from kind of that working class, blue collar, pink collar background, right. And being children of the 70s, people just didn't have what they do now. The expectations were not as high. So having come from that and having both been taught how to work, we had very similar views on money.
Which is a good thing. That can help when you come together with somebody else.
Yeah, very much so. Not that we didn't have some disagreements about how to move forward sometimes. Because we kind of came from a similar background and we had similar views on money, it made it a lot easier to be partners.
Yeah, I agree. Not everybody has that support.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that you just have to learn on your own because it's not taught. Now, we tried very hard with our kids.
So did you do similar things with your girls that you did when you were growing up, or did you shift it a bit because times changed?
We shifted not only because times changed, but we wanted them to understand the things that we didn't understand, that we learned the hard way. So if we were buying a house, we would take them to the closing. If we were buying a car, we would take them to shop for the cars and we would let them see the negotiation.
Yeah, I mean, we're similar because we've talked to our boys about everything when it came to our finances and the questions. And like Tyler, before he went off to college, we were having breakfast one morning and he asked us, like, how'd you learn about like the loans and the this and that? And we're like, trial by fire, because we were not taught.
And made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Made a lot of mistakes. But yes, so we're very similar in that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are of the mindset that you shouldn't talk to your kids about your money and what you have. And I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just we're in a bit of a financial literacy crisis, I think, to a degree with the younger generations. And I think the digital side of it affects it too.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that have gone on. With our generation, women especially, were taught not to talk about finances.
They couldn't get credit cards by themselves till the 70s.
No. When did I live in Dallas? It was like the late 90s. Yeah, 98 to 2000. A friend of mine went to buy a car and they wouldn't sell her a car without her husband being there.
Did she have a husband at that time?
She did have a husband at the time.
Okay.
But she had the money on her own. It was her money in her account. She could have written a check for it.
And they wouldn't do it because she was a woman. And I think that some of that still goes on. And I don't think it's intentional. Women can support themselves. Women can do for themselves. So did she ever get the car or did she have to have her husband come?
She went somewhere else.
Okay, good.
She lost the sale and she went elsewhere.
Yeah. Shame on you.
Yeah. Basically, that's what she said.
Wow. Yeah. That is just absolutely just crazy. Is there anything else for just our young adults or women, anything in regards of insights or tips?
The one thing that I would say, being a widow at this point, knowing a lot of widows and what they're going through, if you're married or you're with someone, if your finances are commingled, you need to be equal partners in that relationship, in that financial relationship, because at some point, one or the other of you is going to have to take care of the finances on their own.
I mean, I know when Joe passed, you were dealing with a lot and you are in the financial world. You're an expert too, just like I am. And so it's not like you don't have that knowledge, but I just remember your frustration dealing with things and you still had things in the right perspective, but it was hard because Joe wasn't here and that's frustrating.
It is. And so few people are trained in these companies to deal with the death of a client that you have to teach them. You have to know what you have before you can teach them how to handle it.
and have all the paperwork, right? You had to have all this paperwork, even though you were a partner with him.
Yeah. I was more fortunate than most, I will have to say. Not only just because we're both highly educated people, but also because I will admit this was inadvertent. We were joint owners of everything, which meant that I didn't have to jump through hoops. But I know so many young people now keep their finances separate even after they're married. When someone passes, you have no access to that until everything goes through the process.
And for some, I would think like, even if you have like credit card authorization, that might only be for you to carry that card and charge, but not for the account management. Is there issues with that too?
Oh, yeah. If you don't know, make sure you know. Are you joint owners of the account or are you an authorized signer? Because even I didn't know that. And there were 2 accounts that I was only an authorized signer on.
Oh, and you had to wait for all the paperwork to get filed before you could do anything with those.
Yeah, basically they had to be closed. And then I had to apply for credit on my own with my own credit.
Because you weren't a joint owner, you were just given authorization. That's a good point. Now that I'm thinking about it, I need to go back and check because I have some cards in my name, but Larry's on the account, but he might only be an authorized signer. So yeah, good point.
And that can work both ways. So if you have good credit, you can be okay. Because the flip side of that is that's not your debt. So organizing your debt in a way that is advantageous if something should happen to one of you is the right thing to do. So for instance, a car. If you don't want to be stuck with 2 cars, with 2 car notes, only put your name on the one that you want to be left with. Because otherwise, the other one, you can just hand over the keys. It's not your debt.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Very interesting that you can plan your debt.
Yeah, you should really plan your debt.
And I think you bring up a point, I guess, on some level that if you are married or you have a partner or you're living with someone and you have a joint account, that even if like, I do a lot of the bookkeeping for us, but I force Larry to make sure he has access and he reviews it quarterly because even if you're the person that doesn't cut the check and pay the bills, you need to be aware of everything that's there.
Yeah. What's your debt and what's his debt and what's your joint debt? And never sign for someone else's medical. You can sign for treatment. Don't sign for financial responsibility, even if they're your spouse. If something should happen, you don't want to be stuck with that debt. So thinking through your debt structure as well as your earnings is really critical as well.
And it's one of those things that, what happened with your situation was just unexpected, tragic, like it just happened in a blink of the eye. And whether it happens like that or that person, is sick or whatever is going to pass, you should still have that plan in place. Like think that stuff through. And yes, it's hard. You don't want to think about things like that, but we have to. You don't want it to affect your credit, your finances.
Yeah, because every time, and this is the one thing had never occurred to me, is having to close certain accounts and even to take him off of other accounts, every time you do that and have to reapply for credit, if you need to keep that line of credit, that hits your credit. So you have to plan to do that over time. One where they messed it up so badly. When they did it in such a way that it hit my credit for 90 points.
That's crazy. That is huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, huge. Thankfully, I had excellent credit going in, but 90 points.
Even with excellent credit, 90 points is huge. I think it's 3 times a year you can get free credit reports. You should definitely go and pull your credit reports and take a look. And I actually just had fraud again against me. I have a credit card with Bank of America. I've had it for years. And I got a debit card in the mail like a month ago. And I'm like, I didn't open a checking account with them. And I immediately called them. I'm like, I don't understand. I said, I've been a client of yours for almost 10 years. I said, my son has an account, but I have no access to that account. He's 21. He has his own Bank of America account. And I texted him. I go, did you open a checking account? Then they accidentally sent it to me. And he's like, no. And somebody got a hold of my social security number and my address, but immediately did the credit fraud reports, did the freezes, and it got pulled off my credit because it wasn't me.
Yeah, speaking of that, I use LifeLock. And thankfully, I got that the November before Joe passed because I was made aware that I was a victim of the credit agency breach. Which one was that?
Oh, yeah. Was that? Oh, I can't even remember which one that was. There's been so many. Isn't that terrible?
This was the really bad one. And while Joe was in the hospital, that second day, got an alert. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name. By the time we got it all locked down enough, I had been hit 20 times. It was so bad one day that the LifeLock person told me to hang up, go lock all of them down, and then call him back because they were happening faster than we could even catch them. They were happening while we were on the phone trying to shut them down.
But even if you don't use a service like that, and these services are good and they help, they have people, that's what they do, it's still important to pay attention. Look at your credit card. With everything being digital, you could just have it automatically set up payment. People forget to look. You have to look at your transactions. You have to look at what's going on because you could be a victim and then it could be too late.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned in my professional life is that a lot of fraudsters will start hitting you with small charges. If you don't balance your bank account, if you don't do your credit card accounts on a monthly basis, those small $5, $6, $8, $10, $20 charges, they add up and then they know they can hit you because it's kind of like a little tab. And if you don't catch it, then they're going to hit you again. So then your information becomes available on the market.
Usually, beginning of the month, I go through and I review everything. I see when everything's due. Maybe in the middle of the month when I have mid-month payments, I'll look at things. And I get it. Not everyone has a lot of time to do that. But check it once a month. Check it once every few months. Pay attention.
And set up the alerts. The electronic alerts.
Definitely.
Most of your credit cards and bank accounts, you can set up alerts.
Oh, yeah. We went to Niagara Falls when the boys were, 10 and 7. I don't know. It's been a while, right? It's been a while. But we had gone up there and we had just crossed the border into Canada. And Larry's like, okay, we need to get gas on the car. Okay, great. Pull up to the gas station. He puts in the credit card. It says you need to go inside or whatever. And while he was inside waiting in line to give him the card, the bank called me. And they were like, we just saw the card run through in Canada. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to call and let you know that we are traveling. It is us. We're getting gas. I think it was like $40 of gas, whatever. It wasn't a lot, but yes, the notifications. Yes. And I even go so far as when I get those text notifications, I will actually go to the back of my card and just call customer service because it's not that I don't trust the number in the text that they sent me. Sometimes you don't know. And when you notice something maybe is wrong in your bank accounts or your credit cards, try to call as soon as you can and be calm and be patient because, first of all, if you tell them, no, I didn't do this, and they walk you through the security stuff, they'll help you as much as they can and try to catch it as soon as you can because fraud, and especially in the financial area, can really affect your credit.
And if you let it go too long, they won't help you fix it. After 90 days, you're stuck with it.
That can be hard for people. And banks, I think, are getting smarter, though, because of the digital ways that we're paying for things. They're picking up on some of that stuff more. These are not normal transactions, per se.
Yeah, because every once in a while, I do something that apparently trips their algorithm. And
right.
They tell me that really was me.
Right.
But sometimes it wasn't.
It's time for a money break.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Now, during the Jeep Black Friday sales event, get $12,500 in lease support on the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland 4xE. $12,500 lease support includes cash allowances and $7,500 federal EV incentive provided by lender as a capitalized cost reduction and is subject to change without notice. Lessees cannot claim federal tax credit on their personal tax return. Please confirm this information to ensure its accuracy and availability. Consult a tax professional for details and eligibility. Not all lessees will qualify. Residency restrictions apply. Take delivery from dealer stock by 11/30. Jeep is a registered trademark.
Welcome back from our money break.
Do you feel having the experience now as being a widower, you've been able to help others, right? I've seen you had a blog, you've learned things. Are you coming across more people who just really don't understand the process when it comes to the financial and you're able to help provide them with that?
I am finding that there is a really large number of women who know nothing about their finances. I had one woman tell me that she had to have someone come break into the file cabinet where her husband kept everything locked up. And that is so devastating because in some cases, these women, they were losing their homes, they were losing everything. And Some of it was just because they really hadn't engaged as partners with their financial partner because they really didn't know and the plan wasn't in place.
And it could also be their upbringing as well or their background. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's grace here. There's understanding. That's why we're talking about this because it's important, especially for women and young adults and youth, to know this stuff.
Yeah. A lot of women that I talk to and they reach out to me. A lot of them reach out to me for help and guidance because they don't know.
What would be one thing or one tip that you would give them as they reach out to you? What's like one of your main things that you tell them about money or finances when it comes to understanding that?
The first thing I tell them is to reach out to a finance professional. And don't trust the advice of your friends, your family. Go to a financial professional. Make lists of everything you can find. Start from there. Go through all the mail, the bills. Go through all the stacks of paper in your house. Make a list of everything you find.
And also, if you don't have those stack of papers, try to find the passwords and get online and try to do that before anything changes in your situation.
Yeah, because once it becomes known, everything gets locked down.
Yeah. And it's harder to get into things after that point. And Larry and I share a online password safe file and it's all secure. He's IT, so he wouldn't, he knows what he's doing with that, but it's a shared file. And so if I have to change a password on something or he has to, it's there. So we both have access to the bank accounts, the credit cards, the mutual funds.
Yeah. And thankfully we had all of that in place. The password thing is really important too. Fortunately, I knew enough about his password habits to figure it all out. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, I love it.
I managed to figure it all out. I eventually even managed to get his iPad reset.
Oh.
But anyway, you need to talk to a financial professional. Make lists of everything. Because one of the few things that people don't really know, because we don't really talk about losing a partner in our society, is the concept of widow brain. That first year, you're not going to remember anything. You have no short-term memory. I still have pictures of events I attended. I have no recollection of them.
It's the stress and the heartache and your heart is broken and this wasn't supposed to happen. But somewhere in there, you survived. You were able to do what you needed to do. And yes, you had support, but still that can be scary, especially when it comes to your finances because things can fall through the cracks.
Yeah. And even like you mentioned, we still had each other to bounce ideas off. Making those big decisions, that's why they say when this happens, don't make any big decisions for a year. You've got to get beyond that widow brain. And you don't know who you're going to be in a year. But financially, you have to get through that year. You have to go through the process of closing accounts. So there's this whole process you have to work there. But so many women know so little about their finances, they just let the other person handle it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You have to know your money and understand it. And even if you don't want to make the decisions or pay the bills, you still have to know what you have. It's so, so important. I don't know how else to stress it. And like I said, because as a CPA and the accounting side of it, yes, I do a lot of it. But I tell Larry, you still have to know. And then we talk to our boys about it because they need to know and understand and how do they work this. And I joke and I laugh with Tyler because when he got his credit card, I taught him about understanding how the month works with the credit card. It's not a full month, like from beginning to end. It could be in the middle of the month, in the middle of the next month, and how all that works. And he had, I think, one time missed a payment by a couple of days, just made a mistake. I said, fine, call the credit card company, pay your bill, see if you can get the interest or the penalty abated a bit, first time doing it. So it scared him. So he put like a notification in his phone of when to pay. And I guess he had no charges the 1 month on the card. And he texts me the one day and he gets a statement and it says minimum payment 0 and it says balance owed 0. And he goes, how do I pay 0? And you know my son, right? You've known my kids a long time. And I just laughed and I said, you don't. And he was freaking out because he had missed a payment before and got charged. I said, Tyler, I don't know how you pay 0, but you don't. And he's probably going to kill me for leaving this one in here, but I have some great stories with my kids and money.
Oh, yeah. Do I?
But yeah, so it's important to even know something like that. And if you can't pay off your credit card, because some people they have to use a credit card to pay for things. They can't pay it off in full. Pay as much as you think you're capable of. Try to reduce that interest, reduce those fees, but don't miss a payment. That's far worse.
Yeah. Never miss a payment. Don't be late on payments. Set them on auto pay if you can.
Absolutely. But pay attention even on auto pay It's all about paying attention.
Yeah, because one of the things that I do, because you were talking about not paying interest, and I'm big on not paying interest.
Right.
I set them for auto pay just in case. So I know at least the minimum payment's going to get paid, but that way I know if there's an emergency or something happens where for some reason I can't get in there to pay it, that at least there's something auto paid, so I'm not going to be penalized. I can take care of the rest later.
Yeah. I mean, I freak out when I see my credit, and we have good credit to really good, excellent credit too. And when it drops sometimes, and I'm just like, oh my God, what'd I do? And that's just me. Again, I think it's just my nerdy brain with money and numbers, and I'm obsessed. I don't know.
I think it comes to being in finance and accounting.
I agree. And we both have been in it for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. Because boy, when that 90 points hit me,
yeah, I would have really been upset with 90 points. If it went down 5, 90.
I jumped in the car and I tore up there.
And to me, I would have been like, okay, that's got to be fraud. But that's my mindset. That's why we're talking about it. Paying attention and knowing. And it's interesting because I'm finding that with this digital world, we're getting less cash. Things are going far more cashless. And I think for the younger generations, it's a little easier to a degree. You know, we're kind of that cusp between checks and credit cards and cash and paying it online and the computer. And it's a balance.
Yeah, and especially those in our age group. Because, I mean, hey, when I was accounting, we were using ledger paper. You know?
I don't have as much ledger paper anymore. But when I talk to my clients about things, trying to get my business clients to understand two sides of a transaction between cash and where it goes, I'll draw a T account and I'll show it to them.
Oh, yeah. Everybody that I work with still does T accounts because we get into these complex things, especially with multiple countries involved. It's like we kind of work the problem and then eventually someone's like, okay, let's do the T accounts.
Yeah, I agree. And people who are younger than us and younger generations who don't know or hadn't done it by hand, like they're probably like, what is ledger paper? Ledger paper is basically what I guess QuickBooks looks like now in their register, but on green paper with columns. It's the best way I can explain it. Yeah, calculator tape. I still have my 10-key calculators with my tape.
My 10-key skills aren't that fast anymore.
Oh, mine still. No, that is something. I was a senior in high school many moons ago. I had an internship my last month of high school. So if you got all your stuff done, you could do an internship. And I went with a friend of my dad's, local CPA, and he taught me how to do 10-key calculator. So like for those that don't know, if you're looking at a laptop and it has a keypad next to it with numbers, that's the more modern version of what a 10-key calculator with a paper tape used to look like. And yeah, I still type away without looking at my number pad.
Yeah, I can still do the 10-key now. Like I said, I'm not that fast anymore. My fingers used to fly.
Yes. And I think it was the noise of the paper, right? As you're
you get into that groove.
You don't have that on the computer anymore. Like, I want to put a sound on there. Is there anything else that maybe I haven't touched on, whether it's working with our youth or being a woman or your daughters or just anything that you can think of when it comes to money that you think is important for people to know?
I guess the one thing is ask questions. Ask lots of questions. And there are so many financial professionals out there who are willing to help. When I first started in the industry, women were a minority. And now there are a lot of women in this industry.
And the industry has changed since we started too, not just being a minority, but the expectations, you know, and I hate to say this, but you had to be like you were one of the guys to a degree with the clothing and the working the hours and just you had to work harder.
Yeah, no, you really did. And that's the reason I play golf these days.
I love it.
I guess the other thing too is don't be afraid of your investments. Put money away for retirement. As young as you can get into a plan, a 401k plan. Get in. At least at the bare minimum, invest enough to get your company match. Because if you don't do that, you're giving away free money. You don't get it now, but you get it in retirement. It's still free money. You know, if you start putting away at 21, 22, you will have a very comfortable retirement.
Yeah. And I've been saying, you know, even if you say, oh, but I don't always have the money, put something away. Put a little away in savings, and then you can take that savings and invest it and just get into the habit.
Yeah. Be as disciplined as you can about it, like $5. That's less than one Starbucks drink.
Yeah. You have to start somewhere. And yeah, maybe give up one day a Starbucks or something you might be going and getting. Just, it's okay for a little bit. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's always a learning process.
Yeah. So never stop asking questions. And if you don't understand, reach out to somebody.
I want to hear from you. Do you have questions about money? Would you like to share your money stories with me, like a time when you felt really stressed about money? Visit www.yourfinancialmavenpodcast.com and leave me anything you want to tell me about money. The purpose of this podcast is to provide general information on the subjects discussed. It is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. You should consult your CPA, accountant, or tax professional for all of your specific financial needs or situations. Credits: Producer, Your Financial Maven, LLC, and Samantha M. Besnoff, CPA. Music, composition, writing, and recording by my amazing cousin, Dan Shore. Podcast editing by Kris Zarnoch of KMZen Creative. A special thank you to the Seneca Women Podcast Network and iHeartRadio, and to P&G and MasterCard for creating and sponsoring the inaugural class of the Seneca Women Podcast Academy. A special thank you to my mentor, Katrina Norvell, for guiding and giving me the confidence that I needed when I didn't think I could do this. A special thank you to all of the women who are also a part of the Seneca Women Podcast Academy. You are some of the most amazing, brilliant, bright women that I know, and I am so blessed to be a part of this group with you. I am so excited for all of your podcasts and where things will go for all of us. And a very special thank you to all of my family and my friends. You know who you are. Without your love and support for me and my life-changing aspirations, I would not be where I am today. Thank you. Your Financial Maven is a production of the Seneca Women Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
When you download the Baker's app, you have easy access to savings every day. Get the most out of weekly sales and receive personalized coupons to save on your favorite items, all while earning 1 fuel point for every $1 spent. Baker's makes it easy to save while you shop, whether it's in-store or online, so you get the most value out of every trip, every time. Download the Baker's app now to save big on your next purchase. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Must have a digital account to redeem offers. Restrictions may apply. See site for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.